This video is brought to you by BTI Institute, a New Jersey leader in certification-based management training.
Thanks, John. We always enjoy the informal introductions and banter before this. So today, as part of our Agile discussion group, we have a great topic, the transformative impact of AI in future products. And we have Ritesh Vajaria here with us. Ritesh and I actually worked together at an organization about 10 years ago. And we've managed to reconnect quite recently. And he's doing some really, really cool stuff that you'll see in the pages ahead. And a little bit about me, just an introduction. You have probably attended several Agile discussion groups, usually tag team with Bob Phillips, who's also here in the background as an Agile enthusiast. So I've worn a Scrum Master hat, product owner, team coach, enterprise coach, done some really fun stuff and cool stuff with Scrum, Kanban, worked with a multitude of teams, depending on where they are in the journey, startups to people who started to even hyper-productive teams. I am the PMI New Jersey Agile chairperson, and we meet towards the end of the month, last Wednesdays of the month, and host something like this. So that's just a little bit about me. And without further ado, Ritesh has got a much more nicer, cleaner looking slide here. So Ritesh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Nitin. Good evening, folks. Luckily, all of you are in New Jersey. At least this is a PMI New Jersey chapter. So I don't have to say good morning. But good to see you all. I'm a former PMI New Jersey member as well. Been a PMP 15 years ago now. Sorry, it all lapsed. But I've been working with AWS for last 5 odd years, and then been in technology industry for 25 plus years. My gray hair and the bald might say a lot, but primarily been working on AI, generative AI specifically for last 2 years or so. Privileged to work with products such as Bloomberg GPT. Some of you may have heard of it. I literally had my hands and fingers and everything in designing and building the entire Bloomberg GPT. And there are many other newer GPT style AI model has been in the market. Some are open source, some are closed source, like ChatGPT is one of them you may have heard of. That's actually on the closed source sides, but there are other open source like Falcon and many others. I have privileged to work on many of this. Last 12 months, I mean, if I look at my United, I literally travel all around the world. And that's the reason I have Earth as my background, because I don't know where I am on a given week, thanks to AI. And been in New Jersey for like 20 years. And as Nitin said, we worked together a few years ago and then reconnected again a couple of months ago. And I'm happy to go through the entire motion of sharing my knowledge of what this AI or generative AI thing is, and then how it can be beneficial to all the community in the project and program management and product management. With that, let me get started. I'm sure this is kind of a we'll go through in next 20-25 minute, 30 minute or so. Is more of a AI? Is it still a hype or it's a reality? I mean, if you depends on who you ask, it's still a hype. But some of us who are realistic, who have seen what has been happening around us, it's real. We'll go through. We all are leader here. We'll go through Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. We'll talk about briefly on that. We'll touch upon briefly on what is that life looks like if you are that optimistic and start adopting this thing called AI, and some of the resources we can share as along the way. So AI, when we are talking about hype versus reality, I think I would call ChatGPT, some of you may have seen when it came out on December 1st of 2022. It's an iPhone moment. I mean, iPhone is in this industry for last 16, 17 years. And that kind of changed the entire world of what we are looking at today. Same thing. AI has been there for decades and decades. If you ask me, I mean, I've been doing machine learning for at least 9 years. But ChatGPT has kind of changed the world upside down when it comes to AI. And since then, there has been so much investment, so much funding going on. There are hundreds and hundreds of new companies with .ai extension. You will see as a instead of .com. So it's similar to what some of you may have been into that early 90s, where a lot of .com companies have started, and then we had a bust. I'm not saying that we are in that bubble. There is definitely some sort of bubble, but it's getting real. It's getting real in a way where everyone who is using it is making improvement in their daily life. And that daily life could be that LinkedIn post, what you talked about, John, earlier, a few minutes ago, where you create that LinkedIn post and that gave you a few hundred likes or a few thousand likes, depends on what that number was. But actually, you were using that AI as a creator machine, right? And then what we want to emphasize as a evangelist, or what you call me, doesn't matter, is we want to use AI as our companion, not as a creator, right? Where we want to use AI like our Jarvis. If we are looking at Iron Man as an example, we are the Iron Man. We always want to be that Iron Man, and we want to have Jarvis on our side, right? So again, not picking on you, John, but next time you are copy pasting that post from ChatGPT, maybe make some minor human editing so it feels like this is actually a human created content, right? So again, it's real, it's not hype anymore. And going further into the mix, right? And then maybe it's the wrong way, but when we are looking at AI, and this is coming from a prolific person, Andrew Ng. He's the co-founder of Coursera, co-founder of and then part of DeepMind, Google DeepMind in the very early days. This is what he said almost 8 weeks ago now, when he was at Stanford addressing the new batch, that AI is like an electricity. We all use electricity every day without realizing where that nuclear power plant is. Similarly, AI is going to get embedded in our life without us realizing where that AI is coming from. Whether we are using it in our phone, in our laptop, like there is an AI companion in the Zoom as well, and probably there is a bot which is taking a notes right now as I'm speaking. That's an AI bot. So, but many more AI companions are going to get embedded in our life in coming weeks, coming months. I'm not talking about decades. We are talking about months to years at best, right? So it's right there and then. So you all may have question in terms of what is this thing, right? I mean, if you are not into the technology world, you are not focusing on what's happening around us, you may start with the question, what? But I go back to Simon Sinek and say, let's start with why. Why everyone is talking about AI when we are talking about anything. So start with why is what Simon Sinek talks about. And then we start with why here. This is McKinsey's data where they are predicting a generative AI could add a value almost up to 2.6 to 4.4 trillion just using generative AI, which is one of the aspects. And then we'll get into what that generative AI is in a second. But by using generative AI on every job, every role, the prediction is up to 4.4 trillion. And then from a number point of view, if you are not able to comprehend, the UK's GDP was 3.1 trillion in 2021. So we are literally talking about replacing an entire country's, or probably one of the top 5 countries' GDP by just doing generative AI, right? So that's the massive impact when we are looking at overall gain as a human being we will have because of generative AI. And that productivity gain, what they are predicting, is anywhere between 15 to 40%. And if I just quantify it, average person typically works on 40 hours a week. With 15% productivity, we are looking at doing 46 hours of work in 40-hour time, right? And then this is a very optimistic number. If we are looking at some of the other roles like software development or whatnot, we are looking at 50-60% productivity gain. Depends on what you are trying to do. And this is a very beginning of that journey. Like when .com started in early 90s, and the companies like Amazon and Google got created back in those 90s. We are in that era. And then what happened in last 30 years, some of you have observed of what happened to Amazon, what is happening to Amazon right now, or Google right now. It's like $1 trillion economy just for one company. Similarly, in AI, we are at that very early stage, but it's evolving at a faster clip than the internet era. It took 30 years for us to get there from an internet point of view. It would not take 30 years for AI to go to that level, right? So if you feel that you left out of what happened in last 12 months, not really. It's just getting started, so you are in good hands. Let's talk about how, right? I mean, why we talked about, but it's just iPhone moment. What happened in December 1st of 2022 was just somebody was doing something in the month of November, and then they launched it in December. Not really, right? There is a decades of work happened behind the scene when we are looking at overall things from AI point of view. The Moore's law, all of you are familiar with Moore's law in terms of the chips. Chips are getting smaller and smaller, and then it's getting compressed and compressed. More processing power has been added to this CPU and GPUs. So that's Moore's laws to action, which has been ongoing in the chip industry for last 20, 30 years, which we all have observed. That is one factor where uh, chips were becoming easier to or easier to produce, and then we are able to see it from availability point of view. The second is cloud computing. And again, it's not just AWS. I'm biased towards AWS because I work for them, but also the other cloud computing could be Azure, could be Google, where anybody can go and with a single click of button, you can gain access to the compute, to the storage, to whatever you need to do. And that revolutionize how the scientists may want to do things, how science experiments they want to leverage. But when we are looking at AI is not only the compute hungry, but it is also data hungry. And when we are looking at data, though COVID was kind of not a blessing to any of us, blessing in a disguise for AI, because we were all stuck at home doing either Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. We all were there, right? So we generated tons and tons of data on the internet. And most of the models, what we see today, these AI models, are trained or using the data which is coming from the internet. So literally, and again, I'm paraphrasing it here, it's not exactly what I say, but for example, the ChatGPT, what you use today, 90% of the data on which it is using its brain to train is coming from the internet. Probably the 10% is some proprietary data set they may have created or they may have modified to support. But quite often, many of these models are trained using the public data set, which is coming from the Twitter, from Reddit, from Wikipedia, and any other public source you can think of. And then probably that's the reason New York Times actually put a lawsuit a couple of weeks ago against OpenAI that, hey, you scraped our data and you are using it to do something, right? That's a different story. We won't go into that direction, but the point is the data is the key, and then COVID-19 kind of helped us. And one more thing, the most important thing which helped to get to a stage where we are today is the breakthrough in science. And when we are talking about science, primarily in the year of 2017, Google and University of Toronto came up with a novel architecture called Transformers. Not like the movie Transformers, but they called it the word Transformers, which is what we see today in all of the architecture, whether it's the Chat GPT, the Bloomberg GPT, Google Bard, or the Gemini version of the Google, or many other modern AI, what we see today in the last couple of years, is all because of that single paper, scientific paper got created in 2017, and everyone iterated on top of it. But that paper got created because of all the other things what I highlighted, and then that kind of led us to what we are able to do today. So that's on the how. And what is all about AI has been in the industry for many years. I mean, AI is not new. People have been doing what we call the predictive AI, where many of you might have received some text from your bank saying that, hey, you are in New Jersey, but somebody in South America is using your credit card. Is it a fraud? So that fraud detection is technically AI at play. And that has been going on for many, many years. Speech to text, text to speech, many other functionality, what we know of existed in pre-COVID era exist as is, right? So there are many various ways of doing AI. I won't go into the technical details of it. I'll let you figure it out what all things are. But it's one side of the AI, what we call the predictive AI. The prominent side, what is growing, is the generative AI, which is allowing us to create many, many new things, right? So what we saw in the predictive AI is more of a language translation or a image recognition or a speech to text, text to speech, and then many other functionality. But it is all done as a single way. Like you have one AI model which is only doing speech to text, the another model which is doing text to speech. But what this generative AI is kind of evolving is everything into that single biggest model you can think of. So the ChatGPT is able to do all of these things what we are talking about, whether it's about text to speech, language translation, sentiment analysis, extraction of data, and many more things. So that is how the word foundation model kind of derived, where it's able to do everything at once. And some of you may have heard a term called LLM or large language model. So that is nothing but foundation model at the onset. When we say large language model, it's again it's a philosophical way of thinking it. But LLM, which is only for language, so it's only doing text based prediction or analytics. What about image? What about video? What about voice? It's not LLM then. Then it will be an LVM, like large vision model or large audio model or a large video model. Depends on what the modality is, right? But I'm calling it generally as a foundation model. This is a common term, even Stanford called out. So don't go by the word. LLM works as well. And when we are looking at LLM, how it functions is typically predicting the next word. So based on the initial context, when those three word is fed, like the ball is fed to this model is predicting the fourth word. In the scenario, model is thinking, okay, the ball is red. Maybe it's a cricket ball, that's why it's red, or a basketball. Or maybe there was a context that, hey, ball was in the motion. That means the ball is moving. It's not stopped. Or maybe there was a weather issue or Super Bowl is coming and then maybe there is a rain or snow or whatnot. The ball is not wet, but it is dry, right? So the model is predicting based on the context is given to the model. So it's all about predicting the next word. That is what the fundamental way of thinking what this model is able to do. But that means when you are prompting something to ChatGPT, all it's doing is predicting that next word and then next word, and then it's coming up with a paragraph, then it's coming up with an entire article, right? So it's in fraction of seconds or fraction of microseconds or milliseconds, it's generating an entire article for you. But that is how these models are powerful. But it's not just we have seen it at ChatGPT. I'm sure when you are doing an email, Gmail particularly, when you start typing words like I hope, it's thinking that, okay, Gmail has a model, and that model is actually giving you the prediction that, okay, I hope you are well. And same thing for our messages on an iPhone or Android, where we are typing something and it's predicting the next word. That's nothing but that GPT model at work behind the scene, right? It may not be that huge model like GPT-3, but it may be the smaller model of a GPT size. Second. So the other aspect of model when we are talking about foundation model, I mentioned it's LLM is one way of thinking from a large language model point of view, but there is also a text to image. So one is text to text. When I say write a code, it's writing a code. Text to image, I said, okay, create an image which is of a 3D mobile automobile engine. It generated that image for me. And when I say, okay, create a video, a small 10-second video of a sedan on the road, and the model is generating a video, which is kind of a 10-second sedan on the road, right? So that is how the models are kind of taking the input text, absorbing what this text is about, and then coming up with its answer. And for each of this category, the way behind the scene it works is completely different when we are looking at language versus video versus image. Right? So now we come down to that actual reality when we are talking about hype versus reality. And then what is that reality, right? So AI is actually enhancing our abilities, human abilities, and it's versatile across multiple domains. I think and I might be very bullish, but I don't see a single industry which will not get impacted by this new wave of AI, particularly in improving the human productivity. Doesn't matter which industry you take it, you will see that impact where how these people, every one of us, are going to interact with AI. And I really like how McKinsey has laid this out when they are talking about the by roles, what kind of impact they are seeing, whether it's about educator, whether it's about property maintenance, whether it's about on the real estate side, whether it's the office support, whether it's about the creativity for each on every role. And this is a survey done by them, and then they are relaying that, okay, they see certain percentage of people are started using. There are many more percentage of people have to start utilize across the board, across the globe. And this is more of an industry optics in terms of which industries are sort of going ahead, early adopter or whatnot. Maybe media is one of the industry, or creative industries are going to be more impactful, or financial services and healthcare will see a better impact. Maybe in terms of how our 401k managers are doing the portfolio management, or whether it's about how our doctors are utilizing the image recognition, identifying our X-rays, and based on that, the models are generating outputs saying that, hey, based on this X-ray, I believe there is a fracture or a minor fracture or a hairline fracture. And then doctors are making predictions that, okay, based on this analysis, I'm going to do X or Y or Z, right? But this is the chart actually sets apart. This is coming from BCG. They ran an experiment. Some of you might be familiar with this, but this was late last year, where BCG have their own high caliber consultants, and they asked all of them to go and use ChatGPT. That, okay, for your day-to-day work, use ChatGPT. And certain people they kind of set aside, call it a group of people, where they actually train them to use ChatGPT versus other people. They randomly ask and say, okay, go and use ChatGPT. But the people who were trained to use AI in the methodical manner, to do the prompting the right way, to do the data analysis the right way, they were 11% more productive. So everyone was productive. It's not that they were not. But those who knew how to use AI more effectively were 11% more productive, and then they were able to do things faster, 20% faster than the other cohort of untrained peers. And we are not talking about somebody who is just out of the college, right? We are talking about BCG consultants. They are like the bar when we are looking at those consultants. So certainly there is a tremendous value to even to this highest caliber of people who are using AI and learning AI and adopting AI as a whole. So keep it up. So with that, where we are now is assuming that you all are trained in AI and you are fully on board and you are starting, have adopted using AI as a mechanics. And then Nitin will walk us through in terms of what that life would look like when we are adopting AI. Nitin, I'm going to keep controlling the slides, but
Sure, thank you for that, Ritesh. So I'm I'm going back in time, and I'm wearing a former product owner or product manager hat. And Ritesh and I were talking about this and the multitude of initiatives that came my way. Some of them were internal, some of them were external. And we were trying to see, what could a tool or platform like ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude do, right? So typically, if you're in product management, these things will look familiar. You've probably done some market research, you've got some strategy, You've spoken to a multitude of stakeholders. You're trying to bring something to light or to the market, identifying your true personas or potential customers to see what might be viable, as well as what might be, now we say, minimally viable product in the world of agility. Whether we are dealing with compliance, things across the globe, competitors, and so on and so forth. The list is huge and it's endless, right? So we thought of an actual example that we could try and experiment. So let's say, for fun, we're dog lovers and we want to have a dog walking service. During COVID, they said 3 things that kids wanted: a swimming pool, or a backyard, or a pet. And one of my great buddies actually got a dog from a shelter, and it was perfect timing because they could have the dog at home. But as a lot of the impact of COVID was subsiding, people had to go out of their house. If you've got a dog, maybe the dog is well trained and behaved, or you might need to have someone check in, right? So if you want to have a dog walking service, right, and you're a product manager, you might just try to figure out what could be the potential activities to put in a product or a service, right? What could that look like, right? And you can certainly brainstorm, and we've got a few things here. Some things are logistical. Hey, we need a name for this app or a cool sounding website, right? You need a vision document. You've got your roadmap, of course. Who's your market? Are you looking at just the immediate neighborhood? Or are you looking to connect dog walkers? Or is it like an Uber service of dog walkers? Maybe you're traveling somewhere and hey, someone is looking for a dog walker and you have like 1 hour of spare time. You might make a little bit of money. Who knows? Right. To go from that high level further down, as a product owner, eventually you're going to have a product backlog, which is your wish list. You're going to have user stories or spikes. Within the user stories, defining the what, you're going to have the acceptance criteria. And of course, you have the invest model, specification by example. And you have to find ways of connecting the dots if it's a large initiative or a small one, right? So with generative AI, if we could ask a question, right? Let's start with the first one. Hey, can we get an app name? And I'll lean on Ritesh here to share his screen to see in real time what we might get. Now, we did do this about a week ago, and we even had a sync maybe 2 or 3 weeks earlier. And it was pretty interesting that every time we visited, we got a different list. So Ritesh, let's see what we can get as of this moment of time.
So, okay, folks, this is live demo. It's not recorded. Things can go wrong. Murphy's law hopefully will not apply here. But this is ChatGPT, as you all can see. And all I'm prompting is, can you suggest 10 app names for a dog walking app in iOS? We can change it to Android if you prefer, who are an Android user, but that's okay. Hopefully ChatGPT will work. Okay, it's working. And hopefully you can start seeing some of the result. Let me see if I can zoom in for some old eyes like me, so that at least you can start seeing some of the data point, right? Now, yes, there are 10 names. It came up with Puppy Pathway, Stripe Paws, Wagway, and many more, which may not be the exactly same as what we had run when we were talking about me and Nitin last week. That's completely different than what we have here, but at least it's similar in a way where we got these 10 names. Over to you,
This
Nitin.
is where I was entertaining myself, saying, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and I can just imagine she getting on a group chat with a very complicated assignment and saying, hey, I've asked ChatGPT for an answer. Nobody else should ask it for another 5 or 10 minutes, so that maybe they get a slightly modified answer. So when the professor or teacher looks in, might have a little trouble saying, they're not all copying the same homework off each other. So
Yeah.
for this, okay, we've got an app name or potential app names, or killer website. How about a vision document, right? What's our vision, And we probably have something in mind already, but let's say if we go back to the prompt and see what else we get. Again, this is all augmenting human functions, right? So Ritesh has typed in, for this app, can you create a vision document?
Now, those who are into the business, they know the vision documents are long, and we will see screen printing, text after text. It's a long vision document it's creating, regardless of what that vision look like, the problem statement, the app overview, and all the features, what it thinks, the model thinks what it should be. Now, it doesn't mean that exactly what model is printing is what we should be using, right? We should be applying. It's not a creator. We want to use it as a companion.
Wonderful, and you can see it's still going on. It's even
Yes.
giving you a multitude of phases.
I think it may go on we can ask it to stop it, but yeah, finally it's done here. Saying this is a starting point. And this is kind of a vision document what we created last week. I mean, this is a bit different than what it created now, right? The text might be different. It still has the same structure if you look at the overview, the purpose, the feature. And again, it varies from model to model. So in this case, what you are seeing on the screen is coming from a model called Anthropic's Claude. Anthropic is another company. OpenAI is another company. ChatGPT is from OpenAI. Anthropic is a competitor in a way, if you think from two different companies' point of view. And structure is similar, the result might be different.
Yep, thank you for that, Ritesh. So again, although we may have gotten so many words, we have to check our assumptions, we have to check scope, and see what makes sense. And just for fun, we say, okay, how about getting something graphical? This is a high-tech 4K pink doggy out for a walk in the garden. And it's so interesting that every time we asked to get a dog, the imagery was actually different. Again, so in real time, we're going to ask, and this is now text to image, if we can get some digital art.
And thankfully, ChatGPT is a model, what we call a multi-model, right? Multi-modality, because it can not only do the text, which we saw just a few seconds ago, but it can also do imageries. Now, this is where the image aspect comes in picture. Now, this is ChatGPT 4. There is an other version of 3.5 that is only meant for text, right? So now at least finally we have an image, which you can use this image, download it, and straight away put it as our app icon or within the App Store as our mascot. Who knows? It's similar to what we have here, right? It's not much different other than some of the color aspect.
And this is interesting. Now, is color something subjective? What is the human mind going to look at? When I look at this one here, which we had already captured, there was a lot of pink, right? And there's even a little bit of pink in the background in the bushes. But if you go back to the live one, I am just seeing bits and pieces of that. And this is where the human augmentation comes in. If you were to give this to someone on your team who's a graphical designer, and of course, they might have a few samples or a few possibilities, but you're going to pick one. So similarly, over here, based on what ChatGPT is understanding, this is what you're going to get. And it could be different every time. So is that proprietary imagery, Ritesh? That's a good question I'm picking up on the chat. Or I assume
Uh,
you've got a paid version and
oh,
you can download it and use it.
this imagery, it's your own to keep it according to ChatGPT. But again, there might be some disputes, so I'm not a legal expert. Uh, Please consult your legal advisor.
That's a good answer. Diplomatic, isn't it? So, all right, we do have some imagery, and we've got a vision, we've got a fun image. What about a roadmap? No, we can do everything overnight unless you're a sneaky 12-year-old, who knows, with a shorter assignment. But what could things look like in the days, weeks, months ahead? So
So it
chat
will go
GPT.
through, an entire planning cycle, what the implementation cycle will look like, and then, yep, going into the phases, standard product roadmap, what typically we would go through in our in Amazon, what we call the working backwards mechanism, where you start with an end state and then work backwards from that. And that, okay, you are launching a product at end of our re-invent, which is end of November or early December. Let's work backward from that December 1st date and see what it looks like. And then that is how the entire planning cycle would work. But yeah, we got a roadmap auto created for us. Simply we can paste it in. But we don't want to do that, right? We want to use this as a companion. Over to you, Nitin.
Again, the augmentation that keeps coming about. So yeah, we've got, we can slice and dice it differently. We might need some validation as well from other stakeholders. So let's go ahead and see, assuming this is good, can we get some user stories? Now that's getting into something a little bit more tangible. If you're familiar with Scrum or other agile practices, user stories are just bringing up, the voice of the customer. Typically you'll see as a user or persona, I need, so that, and we talk about the three C's: card, conversation, confirmation, and typically, or earlier on, people used to write these on an index card so that they were short. We didn't want to just go into paragraphs and so on. So the whole world of agility is slice and dice things into something small so they can be easily consumed in about 2 to 4 weeks. Now, as a product owner, I could come up with a huge list myself, but I would typically be talking to a bunch of stakeholders, customers, potential customers. And here's the interesting thing. While I have a very comprehensive list, some of this could still be challenged by members of the dev team downstream, right? This might be a good starting point, or again, augmentation, right? And again, this is assuming we're just starting off. What if we had done a couple of months of development and then asked ChatGPT for stories? Is it going to reproduce something right from the start and it's useless? It might go, hey, you kind of already done that, right? So again, this is augmenting things, but this is just getting a flavor of some possibilities. Here are some restrictions. As a product owner, I also write acceptance criteria, or I help overlook it. I'm not seeing that over here. The other things to think about is what you're familiar with. You've heard these buzz scrummy terms. What about your definition of done? You might have stories here, but do you want to repeat things in an acceptance criteria? Or is it already captured in one place? And that's your definition of done that gives us more. So again, what we have here was from a couple of weeks ago. And we can just keep on and on and on, keep asking. It gets into augmentation. There could be a multitude of use cases, and we can see the power of this as we move on ahead. Ritesh, any thoughts from you? Or any other
Yeah,
concerns you could share?
Just one thing I want to add. It's in this scenario or examples, what we have seen is we started from scratch, as Nitin was saying. But what if we have already made some progress and then we are halfway there or one third way there, and then we want to augment the help, right? The good part is if you feed your existing information to this AI models, again, I'm not advocating either or. I'm biased towards Amazon, but you can use either or. You feed your existing information and then ask question that, hey, based on what I have done, I think I'm halfway there, but can you help me generate more user stories? Or can you help me refine this entire plan? Because I want to change the flow instead of focusing on dog walking. I want to do a cat walking. Again, sorry, don't ask me why, but something like that. What should I need to change? And then hopefully, my gut feeling tells me that most of these models are smart enough to realize that change, what you are asking, and it will help you come up with a different narrative, right? So you will need to keep experimenting is what my thinking is when we are going or chartering into these new territories.
Right. Great point, Ritesh. So with that, should we look at some possible use cases or common tasks? Again, chatbots are all over the place, right? And a lot of people are looking into refining it. There used to be a time I would call customer service and I would probably hit the wrong prompt and then they transfer me somewhere. I'd always say very politely, I'm not sure if I hit the right key, but this is what I'm looking for. And now it's evolved a little bit more with, oh, we already have you verified in our system based on your phone number or a voice print. Or if you're on a website and you're chatting, you might find after about 3, 4, or 5 prompts, it will give you a number to call or an extension, and the person knows exactly what you're doing. Or if you're lucky, your issue could be addressed or resolved. There's not even any human interaction over there, right? Personal assistants are great. I've got a feeling in the years ahead, we're going to see more of robotics coming in, actual physical machinery that's going to help us. It's certainly happening in areas with industries where there's movement of heavy containers. We already know Amazon warehouses, they'll give you a tour of how things are being packaged and so on. And I've got a feeling safety is going to be enhanced as well. So the possibilities are endless, right? These are just a few things over here. With knowledge managers, I also think about historical things. If you are in law or an accountant and you have things you need from like a decade ago, you could probably feed that in somehow and get an example of a case or get a scenario. What do you think, Ritesh? You're looking like me now.
No, I think you are heading in the right direction. I want to add one thing, which is, I mean, many of you might be involved in software engineering projects or software engineering products. And if your engineers, if your developers or QA team is not using AI tools to create some of their code, they are definitely missing out. And your product length or the time to launch your product is actually increasing. So make sure that that is happening as you are working towards that software engineering product along the way, because
Hey,
this is
Ritesh,
very common nowadays. Yeah.
Ritesh, can you repeat that again? Did you say that you asked the ChatGPT to create AI code for you? Is that what you?
So when I say not AI code, let's say if I am a software developer,
Yeah.
and I'm creating some Python program, right?
Okay, right.
And as a part of that, if I'm not using AI to do some either brainstorming or generating some of the codes based on my requirement,
Yeah.
I'm spending a lot of time in creating that code. And an AI would shorten that cycle. That means the product launch cycle, let's say you have planned for 6 months, and
Yeah.
typically the longest pole in a pipeline is a code, right? Whether it's coding or QAing and an eventual rollout, that coding time should get reduced with AI. If that is not something happening, then you need to, as a leader, you need to enforce that.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
How do you
That's a
see
great question.
concern about security issues with the code that is being suggested by such AI, such LLMs?
Correct.
Like
Yes,
right?
there is a risk. There is a risk, and certainly any implementation of AI in an enterprise environment doesn't go without your standard security and compliance review, right? So regardless of whether that code is generated by AI or whether your human are creating that code, there, or maybe that human is actually copy pasting from GitHub, who knows, right? I mean, I used to do that. And if I'm copy pasting from somewhere, let's say, or Stack Overflow, there might be some SQL injection code. So you still need to follow your standard security and compliance guideline in terms of identifying is your code is vulnerable to the CVEs what exist in the market, right? So top 10 OWASP security vulnerabilities you definitely want to check against, and then many other things which happens in the standard software security. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good question, Momo. How do you handle the proprietary, information exchange with AI? Like, what questions? Like you hinted that you should, recommend your software engineers to use AI, but if you are actually on a path of designing something that is proprietary to the company, how do you handle that kind of dialogue with AI?
Sure. So when we are looking at AI, and then in most of this models are third party. It's not your own first party. There are a few ways you can tackle it. One is when you are using, like I'm using ChatGPT, what we just saw a couple of minutes ago, is I'm using my own personal account. That means there is a possibility that OpenAI can use this data. If I'm not paying for it, I'm the product, right? But there is a possibility that OpenAI has a version called Enterprise ChatGPT. That is one option to think about. The second, me being biased to Amazon, within Amazon, we have a similar service we call Bedrock. And as a part of the Bedrock, we ensure that your data never leaves AWS environment. And the model which you are using will never be able to use your data to retrain. Now, if that is still not solving for confidentiality, then you may want to deploy that model in your own premises. Now, not everyone offers that, and it's always not cheap. Or you may want to create some model, maybe take an open source model like Falcon or Llama 2 from Meta, and tune that model to your own requirement and host it within your own data center. Otherwise, rely on that legal terms what you have with the service providers, that whatever data you are sending will never be used to retrain or expose that information outside of your account or your sphere of network boundary, right? So that is one way to address it. Does that help?
Yes. Thanks, Utesh.
Sure. Or,
If I could supplement,
or
go ahead,
sorry,
Ritesh.
it just occurred to me, be like Bloomberg and create Bloomberg GPT again.
Yeah, I never heard of that until I joined this session. So thank you.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Right. So moving on. I know we are running almost out of time here, less than 10 minutes. But resources, you all may want to know how you can learn more about all of this, what you learned today, and many more things. This world of AI is moving super fast. In my last 25 years, I have not seen the pace. And I'm not able to keep up. I'm ingrained into the industry and I'm still not able to keep up. So I don't blame if you are not fully aware of it, but I highly recommend many of these tools. Again, it's not biased, but it's in alphabetical order, but Amazon comes on the top. For whatever reason, Amazon Bedrock is a service within AWS ecosystem, which allows you to do exactly what we just did with ChatGPT. For example, there is a similar service called SageMaker, which allows you to train the models from scratch. All of in the slides, what we saw today, the response what model created was coming from a company called Anthropic. Anthropic is a startup. And if you are not aware of Anthropic, you should look it up. Many companies have started investing into this Anthropic. Recently, Amazon invested $4 billion into Anthropic. After that, Google also added another billion. We are looking at billions of dollars of investment in this kind of companies. It's not just OpenAI who is getting 50 billion, right? But there are many other companies. And when we are looking at model quality, Anthropic's Claude is neck to neck in competition with GPT-4 from ChatGPT point of view. So that's an alternative for you who are not looking to use ChatGPT for whatever reason. Maybe it's because it's Sam Altman fiasco, what happened a few months ago, or maybe it's because deployed with Microsoft and you don't like Microsoft or whatever reason. Claude could be an alternative, and that is available part of a Bedrock ecosystem. Google has a Bard, so I'm sure some of you might be already seeing the response when you use Chrome and search for Google. They recently launched called Gemini, amazing from a modeling point of view. I have seen Gemini firsthand, and I cannot praise enough. HeyGen. HeyGen is a newer kid on the block. You can literally create your own video, and then with just few picture of yours, it can create an entire 20-second, 30-second, 1-minute video of yours. You provide the script and it will speak like what I'm speaking in this video right now, right? Midjourney is a model for image creation. And many of my images, what you see today, is none of them are picture I downloaded from Google or Unsplash or anywhere else. It's all generated images. And all of these images are coming from either Midjourney or Stable Diffusion or DALL-E, right? So those are the AI image generator models, which kind of even including the one what you see on the right of the screen. You all have heard about OpenAI's ChatGPT, so I won't talk more about ChatGPT. Runway is a company. You should look after Runway. Most likely, I'm positive, but this Super Bowl, we may see at least one ad which is generated by Runway. Runway is the company who is creating text to video. And typically a 10-second video is a good deal when we are talking about video generation, particularly in 4K and 8K resolution. And Runway is a leader in that video generation, and particularly for those ads. So hopefully we may see one ad. Stable Diffusion is an image creation engine similar to Midjourney or a DALL-E. But these are some of the tools. I use it quite often. There is another thing Nitin mentioned, I think Perplexity, which some of you may have heard of. It's kind of a search engine. If you are not familiar with it, you should look at Perplexity and you will forget what Google is. But with that, let me quickly jump on as we are running out of time almost here. The books. These are some of the books highly recommended from AI point of view of what all things are happening around us and what you should be paying attention to. Those who are book readers. And those who are book readers may enjoy my own book. So I have a book called The Rise of Creative Machines. And it's an introduction to generative AI, particularly those who are not from the technology field. And then I've tried to dumb it down to a common person so that you would understand jargons and then not get doubled down into the jargons. Use this bit.ly. You can download it today if you prefer. It's free for you all as a part of this session. And please share any feedback if you have, or should I make any changes? So that's on the book. But we are happy to launch a course, and this is kind of a self-promotion now. Sorry, but a AI for product managers, particularly Nitin and I are happy to launch this course where we want you all to understand what it takes to be a product manager with AI. So primarily we are focusing on AI, but for product managers. One example, what we saw earlier about the dog walking app, it's not just about dog walking. There are many enterprise class product one has to create. And it's my belief that in next 6 months, if not 1 year, most of the product will be AI driven products. If you do not have AI into your product, then you are missing out. And maybe that product may not be able to compete with other products in the market from a competition point of view. So AI is that much important as a product manager, as a leaders, you certainly want to fully aware of what this AI thing is going to do for your product workload, right? So that is first thing. And with that, these are some of the things we are going to talk about in that course. Again, going very fast here in the interest of time. It's a full 8-hour course. We are talking about 16 different topics within that 8-hour course. There are few guest speakers we have lined up in terms of those who are product manager running the largest AI products within these companies like Amazon and Microsoft. They will come and have a guest on the sessions. We offer office hours, optional one-on-one. And for PMI New Jersey members, because we love you so much, there is an additional discount. So if you follow this link, again, I might sound like an advertiser, but this will give you a discount of what you would get as a PMI New Jersey member, or use this QR code to come up with that. But this is the very first time we are talking about at a broader level about this course. So happy to answer any questions around this or any other things. And I think this is the code you all have been waiting for. But with that, I'll hand it off to Nitin.
Thank you, Ritesh. Of course, everybody asks for PDU claim codes towards the end. We do have a few minutes, and I was monitoring the chat. Maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions from there. And certainly we will stop recording shortly, but Ritesh and I will stay on for a few minutes later. It's a little bit more informal and it's not recorded. Larry had a question, I believe, on what could be the impact or potential impact when it comes to, I think, recruiting or human resources. Larry, was that correct? Did I miss you? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Could you speak to AI's impact on staffing?
Yes. Yes. The elephant in the room, which is it's going to take AI will take my job.
Will AI take the job? Those who do not use AI will get replaced with people who use AI. Does that answer that question, Larry, in a broad context?
Probably as much as we can tonight. Yeah, thank you. To the extent that it is able to process information and provide services, do we still need customer service reps when that sophisticated Gen AI engine can completely answer someone's question, not get tired, not need a break, do it 24/7, and have access to much more information than any human currently can?
We are predicting AGI here, to be honest, Larry. Then I don't, and at least I'm optimistic, but I don't see that happening in next few years at least, where AI would completely replace human for that entire customer service functionality, what you highlighted. There will be at some point. I'm not denying that. We are not there yet.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
Then we have 1 minute left to take a quick question.
Yeah, just one comment. Just remember when the first mainframe computer was created, that somebody estimated we would only need 3 computers for the history of the world. Well, we know where that went. So
Yes.
don't panic. Don't panic about the AI replacing everybody doing everything. And if it did and we make money on it, we get more time for our hobbies. So that could be a good thing.
I used to work for Ken Olson, who said, "Why would anyone want to have a computer in their home?"
Yeah.
The famous line.
Thank you very much for being on the program. Thank you, Nitin. And of course, thank you especially to you, Ritesh, for joining us tonight.